I'm Gabe Lullo, and welcome to the Do Hard Things podcast. We're talking to go-to-market leaders and entrepreneurs who have conquered the challenges, the hustle, and the grind. Get ready for real talk, real insights, and no fluff.
But the hardest thing in the world right now is not actually closing deals, it's actually getting somebody's attention.
If you don't have that hook in that first 5 to 10 seconds, guess what? They're going to scroll to the next one.
You need to go in and you need to make it sound like yourself. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle. And I promise you, we can all tell.
The people that are trolls and the people that are haters never done the thing that you're doing.
I love doing this podcast because I get a front row seat to some of the greatest minds in sales.
Gone are the days of saying stay in your lane. When you're an executive leader and you're an enterprise-wide leader, there are no lanes. You've got to be partners.
Curiosity is like when the type of questions you ask is sometimes the value that you bring.
I need you to tell me when you're ready to buy or what you're ready to do. And I think it's changed so much into like adding more value. And if you're not doing that, then you're definitely going to come off as desperate.
High pressure selling is like a dinosaur tactic at this point.
No parent is like, oh, you should be a salesperson when you grow up, right? Everyone's like a doctor, lawyer, whatever crap. It's never salespeople.
It's not your job to motivate people. It's your job to find motivated people.
It's not cockiness. It's not arrogance. It's confidence knowing I know this and I know that I can help you.
From where I started to where I am today is all because I learned how to sell.
And there's too many people who have only been doing this for 5 freaking minutes. Sit down, close your mouth, actually go out there and get yourself beat up, then come back and tell me if something is dead or not.
That is exactly why I started this podcast, because right there, that's the epitome of doing hard things.
Welcome back to the Do Hard Things podcast with Lexi and Gabe. Today's guest, Ari Barmapov, is the co-founder of Foundations, a sales enablement and go-to-market consulting firm that doesn't just give advice, they roll up their sleeves and build the engine with you. Ari's philosophy is simple. Sales isn't just about closing deals, it's about empowering people. He's trained thousands of BDRs and reps, won President's Club 4 times, and built scalable go-to-market motions that help founders go from stuck to scaling. But what fires him up most is teaching founders how to finally step out of founder-led sales and build teams that believe in what they're selling. His core beliefs, cold calling still works if you do it with integrity and curiosity. Enablement is everything, lead with value, and genuinely give a shit about your clients' successes. When he's not building sales engines, Ari's gaming, playing Magic, The Gathering, or being a dad. Ari, welcome to the show.
Welcome everyone back to the Do Hard Things podcast with Lexi and myself. And I'm super excited to have you on the show. Ari, how are you, man?
Doing well, thanks. Appreciate you having me. Doing good.
Awesome. Well, we just heard your bio. We're so excited to get into the details here, but I always like to start off with origin stories, really where you came from, because like myself, many people on the show, started in sales, and I don't know many people that go to college and get degrees in sales before they get into it. So walk us through this, right? Where did you start? Take me through this path, and really, how did you get into sales? What was that real moment that you realized that building systems and enabling salespeople is something that you were going to do in your career?
Absolutely. So for myself, my sales career, I'm going to call it, started off when I was in retail, actually. I started at this place called Blockbuster. Some of you might not recognize the name. Very old company, not around anymore, but it was a DVD rental store. And people would go in and they would rent DVDs in person. I know this is a crazy concept. And I was in the back of the cash. And
I remember when it had VHS, so I'm old too. So remember that. I remember when it was VHS tapes that Blockbuster was renting.
Be kind, rewind. So it's
Design, rewind, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And when I was behind the cash, we had to sell these things called entertainment packs, which they were and memberships, and they were add-ons where people would get discounts the more movies they rented. And I found that I had an aptitude for selling when I was able to sell these memberships better than anybody else. And it started with me just asking everybody who came in. And the more people I asked, the better that I got at selling them. And inherently, I sold more. And I ended up being the top salesperson for these products in the entire district. So out of 20 some odd stores. I had more of these sold than anybody else. And that was me basically tiptoeing, putting my toe into sales. I went to school for philosophy in university. I initially wanted to be a lawyer, but I found that the type of law work that people enjoy isn't really what you get to do a lot. So I went and ventured out to see what else I could do, and I landed in sales. First experience wasn't the greatest. It was a boiler room type atmosphere, but it got me to understand a lot of the fundamentals and a lot of the work ethic that was required. Back when I started in sales, there was no such thing as auto dialers, or even CRMs were very, very fundamental. I literally had a phone beside me. I would dial the numbers out of a phone book, and I would put notes into a system. And I would do that 150, 200 times a day manually. And when you get that many manual reps in, you get to learn a lot about how people react to things and how people don't react to other things. My second role in sales really was where I was able to understand the fundamentals of enterprise selling, because my first role was a little bit more selling to small businesses. My second one, I was selling more to enterprises. And while I was there, I sold to such companies like PetSmart, like the Hudson Group, which they have those kiosks all over the airports. And from there, I really started to understand, okay, what are the process that people put in place to organize yourself to structure a good sales structure? And that role was really what made me fall in love with sales. Go and fast forward about 10 years, I worked for a bunch of startups. I worked for a bunch of very well developed companies, one of them being ADP, that you might be aware of. Another one is called Workopolis, which was acquired by Indeed. And I learned how the big boys did things, and I learned how the startups did things. And I saw this disparity of how people who are very well established will approach sales, and how people who are bootstrapped, just starting out, or maybe they only have 10 people on their sales team, how they will structure a sales team and they will go after things. And this gap was astronomical, and it had nothing to do with technology. It's not like one had such more impressive technology than the other, but it was their mindset and how they approached selling. I remember one boss that I had, I was trying to get him to organize quotas and goals and targets in an intelligent way. And he verbatim said to me, "We're not a tech company. We don't do that. Just do your job and just get things done." And I'm like, "But I don't know what you want. Like, what's a good job?" What does that mean? Like, this is just some arbitrary measure of just do a good job. I don't understand what you want from me. And it was very, very difficult. And from there, I really branched out to go and create foundations, which is where we help organizations put in place these foundational measures that every single organization should have. And I draw experience from a lot of the large enterprise level organizations that I worked with, and translated that into the startups that I also worked with to be able to bridge that gap a little bit better.
I love that. And I love that you've had sales from all different sides, startups, enterprise, and you've won President's Club 4 times. What do you think really set you apart from everyone else? And when did you realize that those skills could be taught and scaled rather than it's just you have it or you don't?
Winning President's Club is very easy in a lot of organizations. It's very straightforward, I should say, not easy. You don't talk about doing the work, you simply do the work. And the people who show up every single day and do that work every single day, and don't just talk about doing the work every single day, win President's Club. And when I talk about doing the work, I mean making cold calls, sending emails, going and reaching out in DMs, not just waiting for warm things to go and fall into your lap, and to be able to do that. So when it comes to winning President's Club, you'll often see people who've won it once have won it multiple times. Sure, there are the situations where someone has just closed a massive whale, and it just fell into their lap. And that one deal just made their entire year. But part and parcel, the people who win President's Club once will often win it many, many times because it's a type of mindset and skill set that they have to put in the work that is necessary to overcome their goals and not just be complacent with just hitting target.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like me, you've trained thousands of setters, sales development reps, BDRs, right? You see a pattern. You just talked about commitment. You obviously talked about, talent or skill set. The one thing you said in there quickly was mindset. Can you kind of bring that out and take me through why mindset is so important? Because I think it's passed over a lot, right? You focus so much on skill and on training and tactical things. You focus so much on reps and doing it every day and being committed. And yes, you have to have those two things in your secret recipe. But where does mindset really come in when it comes to in enabling, inspiring, and training those SDRs that you've done over the years?
Mindset, I would say, has more to do with the rep success than almost anything else. And I'll compare this to going and training dogs because you see this a lot in dog training. When you have a trainer who's working with an owner, they say, it's not the dog that needs to be trained, it's you that needs to be trained. Because the way that you approach your animal is going to affect how that dog acts more than anything that you do. If you're going to approach your dog with anxiety, with stress, with apprehension, with fear, that is what the dog is picking up. And as an SDR, if you are approaching a cold call or prospecting with fear, with apprehension, with doubt, that comes through in how you talk. Desperation is another thing that people come in. I can't even count the amount of times that people have been desperate and have had commission breath on their breath and talked, and it's so clear as day. And when they just let it go and just stopped caring and just talked, they got incredibly so much more successful than anything else. When you have a rep that walks in the door, picks up the phone, is able to have that hard armor on the outside and is saying, I know I'm walking into this knowing that I'm probably going to get yelled at. And that's okay. That's a reflection on them. That's not a reflection on me. I'm going to still come in with positive, great energy and to try to have more conversations. That type of mindset going into prospecting as a BDR is going to make more of a difference than almost anything that comes out of your mouth. That's why the one thing that I harp on, and it's putting it into more concrete words, is tonality and how big tonality plays a part in prospecting and in sales in general. Because the way that you talk, and that comes from mindset. Your mindset will impact the way that your tone comes across. And you'll start doing these things subliminally. When you have a better mindset, your tone will naturally be better.
Definitely. And I'd love to shift to how you help founders transition out of founder-led sales. It's a huge pain point for many founders. And what is that actually keeps founders stuck in that mode? And why is it so hard for them to let go of that?
It's a really, really great question. And I can answer that in one word: delegation. As a founder, you were taught, I have to delegate everything. I have to give everything to somebody else. I have to get someone else to do things that I don't want to do. Now, there's an issue with that. And the issue is that when you try to delegate sales, when you haven't figured it out yourself, a lot of people, they'll go two different routes. First route, they'll hire BDRs. It's not their job to figure out your business. It's not their job to understand who your customers are. It's not their job to understand how your product perfectly resonates with them. On the flip side, they'll hire a VP. And on the VP of sales side, they haven't prospected in a decade. They're not going to book meetings for you outside of their Rolodex. They're not going to pick up the phone cold call. The value that a VP of sales brings to the table is their ability to lead the business and lead the function. That is where they are valuable. And so the first step for a founder to get out of founder-led sales is for a founder to do founder-led sales. You have to pick up the phone. You have to understand who you're talking to. You have to get a very, very intimate understanding of that before you can even start to pass it on or think about passing it on to somebody else. And Lexi, Gabe, I know you guys see this all the time. People come to Alley, they want to pass sales off to you. They've never done it before. They give you things to do, and you're like, well, we're going to try to make good with what you do, and you guys are professionals and you know what you're doing. But if they don't know what they're doing and they don't know their business and they give it to you, show them so far that you're going to be able to take them. And then to go and build upon that even further, if they've never went and tried to sell to a cold audience or a cold inbound or demand generated people, that makes it even worse. If all they've done is talk to warm people who they know in their network, who will give them the time and listen, it's a completely different way of approaching a situation when you have someone who has brought in through cold outbound. And so to wrap that up nicely, Lexi, the best way for a founder to get out of founder-led sales is to do founder-led sales, own it themselves, get a very deep, intimate understanding of what that sales cycle looks like. And then at that point, look to pass it on. When they have done it 100 times, when they have booked 100 meetings, they know what works. They know what people resonate with. Then they can go and pass that on to somebody else and say, okay, I've done this. I know what works. I just need someone to be able to do it full time because I don't have the time to do it full time because they've booked so many meetings for themselves and they need to go and work on those projects or build something else in the business.
I hope everyone's paying attention because I know you're preaching to the audience, to me and Lexi here, but the audience members who are listening to the show, what he's saying is so important, and we believe in it wholeheartedly. So listen, at Foundations, right? You have a quote that you like to say, you were like rolling up your sleeves and building the engine. Walk us through, what does that look like in practice?
For sure. So we really like to differentiate ourselves from most consultants, which normally most consultants is like a 4-letter word in most organizations. Things that people don't like. And usually people say, okay, they'll come in, they'll meet with you an hour, they'll charge you 20 grand for it because why not? And they'll say, okay, these are the 5 things that you need to do. The issue with that is that the person on the other end has never done those 5 things. And you can give as detailed of a map as you want for them to do it. They're going to do it wrong. And they're going to have to come back to you. And you're going to have to course correct. And they're going to have to come back to you. And they're going to course correct. And it is just a horrible, horrible experience. The person on the other side of the table. Absolutely atrocious experience. Whereas with us, we will build it alongside you. We say, you need to stand up a HubSpot instance. Okay. We are going to literally stand it up for you. We are going to create the SOP on how we did it, show you how to use it, and walk you through the steps to do that. When it comes to building messaging, we don't just say, here's the messaging that you need to do. Go ahead and run with it. Go and use it. We will test the messaging. We will call people, not for the intention of booking meetings, even though that happens organically, but to see, okay, let's try to figure out what is the best way to approach business development. Is it email? Is it LinkedIn? Is it calling? Where do your customers live? And then give you those SOPs and give you and train you on why it's working. You need to hire people. We don't just say, here's an interview guide. Go and use this guide and hire people. We will literally hire people for you. We will record the sessions. We'll walk you through why we're doing things. Then you have something to go back to so that you can own this process into the future and you can grow. The absolute worst case scenario for us, the worst case scenario is that you rely on us indefinitely because that helps no one.
Totally. And I mean, what you've said, you guys work on everything from tech stack optimization to go-to-market design to call coaching. Where do you find that when you're working with people, you consistently see people mess it up? And where do you think you most of the time have to really step in and take the reins?
The most basic things. As a salespeople, we think that some things are so basic and so straightforward and so rudimentary, and people don't do it. And when I say the basic things, I mean putting in place a consistent um, deal flow when you create a deal in HubSpot or an opportunity if it's Salesforce, and saying first meeting, second meeting, um, send out proposal, closed won, closed lost, and how that flow works. I can't count the amount of times that organizations don't have that in place. Something that is so basic, and just everyone is doing whatever they want. And when everyone does whatever they want, you can't report on it, you can't replicate it, and there's no growing. It's just by chance. It's rolling the dice. Oh, it came up as a 6 this time. Great. Sometimes it's just I'm going to roll a dice in the dark. I don't even see what the result is. It's like, oh, that time it was a success. What's the number? I don't know, but it was a success. I guess I just need to keep rolling the dice. So a lot of those basic things aren't there. A script, an initial script on how to do your pitch is not there. Communication structures. So having weekly meetings and having a agenda on what you do on those meetings, it's not there. Have a meeting booking process. What happens after someone has said yes on a cold call? What do? Do you send a message in Slack? Do you create a deal? Do you send an email to the prospect? Do you send a meeting invite? Some people do it this way, some people do it that way. It's not consistent. And when you ask the leaders or you ask the founders, well, how do you do it? Like, I don't know. They each do it their own way. It sounds silly, but it's the basic things. It's the simple things that no one does. You get into the fun stuff after.
Yeah, let me double down on that because we've been talking a lot about founders and their role within sales development. A lot of founders right now, what we see is they're really trying to scale and just focusing on scaling and scaling and scaling, but it's actually hurting them, right? It's actively hurting them the way they're doing it. Can you kind of bring light to some of the things that you see, some pitfalls that founders or CEOs are trying to focus on when it comes to trying to scale, but it does the opposite?
So that can be simplified in 2 words. Scaling what? I'm trying to scale. What? What are you scaling? Well, I'm trying to scale sales. In what way? Like just doing more, adding more headcounts? When people say scaling sales or scaling, it's a buzzword. And it's something that has a meaning, or it used to have a meaning, that doesn't have a meaning anymore. It's just a word for making more money now. And that's what this equates to. Scaling means making more money. What scaling genuinely and honestly means is, okay, I have a set of 3 employees. I have an account executive, I have a business development rep, and 2 business development reps. And I know my unit economics that I am paying $150,000 in salary, and I'm getting back $300,000 in revenue at the end of the day. So what scaling means is I'm going to replicate this pod 4 times because I know that this makes money and I know this makes profitable money. Now I need to replicate this 4 times. That's what scaling means. What founders equate scaling to at the moment is I'm at $1 million and I want to get to $2 million, so I need to scale. So I just need to do more of something. I don't know what it is, but it's something. And it's very much so romanticized. And this is a piece of feedback that a lot of people won't give that is so important. Stop obsessing over scale and start obsessing over the things that are unscalable. If you want to grow, You need money to grow. And if you need more money, more sales, more deals, do things that no one else is willing to do. I give the example of videographers often. I was talking to a videographer. He's like, I need more business. I don't usually work with solopreneurs, but I often have these conversations. I need more business. I said, well, what are you doing right now? I'm sending DMs on LinkedIn and it's just not working. I'm like, well, how long does it take you to edit a video? It's like, I don't know, like half an hour. I'm like, okay. How many of those people have you preemptively gone to their profiles, to their YouTubes, to their socials, pulled a video that they've already done, edited for them, and sent it to them and said, I edited a video and show you what I'm all about. Here it is. Take a look at it. It's on YouTube, so you don't even have to download anything and worried about viruses. This is a private YouTube video, and this is yours. Tell me what you think. Is that scalable? No, it's definitely not scalable. But if you send 10 of those out, what's the likelihood that 2 of those people are going to come back and be like, I like what you're doing. Let's have a further conversation and see what this costs. Guarantee you're going to have a significantly higher hit rate than anything else that you do. People don't do that because they're like, well, it's going to take me half an hour to do that. And what if they don't respond? And they'll hyperfixate on it. And AI, people are like, I'm just going to write my emails with AI and send it to 10,000 people. Well, what about the 9,999 people that read your email and rolled their eyes? What about those people? What does that do when you actually want to go back and sell to more people? You are destroying your TAM. You are absolutely unequivocally destroying your TAM. Then if you went onto their websites, went onto LinkedIn, went onto news outlets, found some very specific details on what makes them a good fit, called that out. And then when you called them, said, hey, Mr. Prospect, this is a cold call. You know what? I'm sure that you hate cold calls, but I promise you this is very, very well researched. I am calling you one-to-one, and I have some very interesting things to tell you after doing some research on your company. Most people are going to say yes because they're going to be like, I just curiosity. I want to see what you found out about me. I want to see how full of it you are.
I love that. And I love a hot take. Definitely think personalization on LinkedIn is so important. We do it with videos, voice notes. It's obviously huge. And speaking of a hot take, you know, a lot of people say cold calling is dead. You clearly disagree. What's your response to that? And what's changed about how it should be done?
Cold calling is dead. And I'll tell you why people say cold calling is dead. Well, first of all, no, cold calling is not dead. But I will tell you why people say cold calling is not dead. The reason why you see this blasted all over social media that cold calling is dead is because you can't sell a course on how to cold call and charge $99.99 for it. You can sell a course on how to email for $99.99. You could sell a course on how to LinkedIn message and grow your brand for $100. But you can't sell one on cold calling because you actually have to do it and it's hard. And so people say it's dead because they don't want to put in the work and they don't want to put in the effort. Sales reps right now are lazy. And that is the honest truth. There's so many lazy sales reps that are not willing to put in the work and the effort to get good at something. When we started this conversation, I had mentioned that I did 200 calls a day and did them manually off of a phone. And you have people complaining about making 50 calls in a day because, oh no, I don't have the time for it. It's like, you have the time, you simply don't want to do it. Let's be honest with ourselves. You have 8 hours in the day. I would go through 100 dials if I had a list that I built for myself, a list of people, of 100 people that I knew I wanted to call, and I knew they were all in a certain segment, and I just went and ran through that list. It would take me maybe an hour and a half to do. Of just going one by one by one by one, focusing, sitting down, and doing it. But we are in a generation where shorts are king. attention span goes off every 3 seconds that you need some kind of B-roll because people are going to go to a different video. I know I sound like that grumpy old grandpa with a cane going and shaking and being like, oh, you darn kids, but that is the state of where we are. Attention span is next to nothing, and people do not have the discipline to sit and make calls for an hour and a half unless it's being done for them on an auto dialer.
So true. That's so true. So last question, real quick. I just, if someone's listening right now, a founder, a sales leader, maybe they're stuck. Maybe they're just, at a blocker. Maybe they realize, you know what, maybe I'm being a little bit too lazy here. What should I do? What's one thing that they should be asking themselves that they can actually take as a word of advice from you to implement this week to get their ground running and change their trajectory?
I think the first and foremost, if they looked at all of the deals that they have sold, everything that they have sold, would they be able to take a look and pick out any consistencies in all of those deals in the full lifetime of their business? So if they looked at everything and they said, oh, if there's one thing that's common among all of them, or a couple of things that are common, what would they be? I think that's first and foremost. I'd say getting to know your psychographic and demographic profile of who you're selling to is something that you should have on speed dial. Second question they should ask themselves is, when was the last time that I booked a meeting with someone that I didn't know? If that answer is I don't remember, then they need to start doing more. And frankly, it doesn't matter what more looks like. It could be email, it could be LinkedIn, it could be phone calling, it could be anything. Just do more. Just make it a focus. Every week, put a certain amount of hours in your schedule, put it in the calendar as a booked meeting, and dedicate that time to finding yourself a new business. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. Will it hurt? Yes. Will you reap the benefits from it? Absolutely. There's this quote or this saying when it comes to lobsters that I really, really love. And that is, a lobster knows when it's time to shed its shell when it starts getting uncomfortable. If the lobster never felt uncomfortable, it would never trigger the body's reaction to shed its shell and to grow anew. And if all you're doing all day, every day, is putting yourself in situations that make you comfortable, you will never grow out of your shell and get into a bigger one.
There it is. I love it. My mentor said to me a long time ago, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that's it. I love the lobster analogy. What a great story. Ari, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait for our audience to hear your amazing words of wisdom. What's the best way for our team to get, or our audience to get a hold of you? And who is the right person to be reaching out to you?
Best way to get a hold of me is LinkedIn. I'm usually on LinkedIn. I answer pretty quickly. And we're always more than happy to get onto calls with founders at no cost. We love talking with people and we love offering free value. One of our taglines that has been the case for many, many years is lead with value. And we wish that we had more people when we started that helped us out and that would hop on calls with us when we needed it. And so the more and more we grow, we have made that our corporate social responsibility to speak with anyone that needs help and try to offer help where it's needed.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ari, for joining us. All of our team members, audience members, thank you so much for listening every single week, and keep doing the hard things, and we'll definitely see you on the next one.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care, everyone.